Okay, so like when it comes to Marvel comics in the 90s, I don't have any hatred for Marvel comics in the 1990s. I really don't because they had provided us a lot of great stories. But at the same time, they had also provided us some random stories that I would not truly think of when it comes to we should make that move with that character over there and see how it goes and how the fans possibly would like it or not. And the reason why I'm saying that because in the late 1990s, for Marvel, X-Men was their number one property, and they were trying their best to keep that boat floating long enough so that they would not disappear in the comic book world. And the reason why I'm saying that because today we're going to cover Kitty Pryde, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And honestly, when I saw this on my reading order a while back, I was kind of like, there's no way that's an actual storyline, right? And it is a three-part miniseries that came out in the late 1990s. Of course, ties in with Excalibur, but not really. But it also brings back a character I haven't seen in a good while. Now, you do have Larry Hama, who did write Wolverine for a good while there, work on this book here. So let's see how you guys may or may not enjoy this book. Because as we get into the opening pages of the storyline, we really do pick up with Kitty Pryde and also, well, Pete Wisdom just hanging out on Muir Island. Now, while you do have one of the two power couples of Excalibur just hanging out, well, then out of nowhere, this aircraft appears. Now, this aircraft belongs to S.H.I.E.L.D., but the problem is for our heroes, they know that S.H.I.E.L.D. is based out of America. So with that being said, they have to have special kinds of clearance to land in other parts of the world, like Muir Island. And so for our heroes, they're kind of wondering, why in the world is S.H.I.E.L.D. here for? Now, we know, they don't know, but when they do arrive, we also get reminded that by this point in Marvel Comics, and I'm pretty sure about this, that Nick Fury is not around. And so with him not being around, that means G.W. Bridges is in charge, but he kind of shares that role with two other characters in the Marvel Universe. Now, with that being said, when he does arrive, he's just straight up rude to the different members of Excalibur. And it's kind of like him saying, hey, you know what? You can try to fight me or hurt me or whatever. Just know that you're going to fail. Like for GW, he does not care what kind of powers you may or may not have, but either way, he's going to win. Now, with all that being said, for GW, he does inform Excalibur why he's there for. He's there for Kitty Pryde. This begins the process of her becoming a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent because for Larry Hama, he's not trying to waste any time at all. But this story does kind of go in one crazy direction. With that being said, for GW, he says, listen, there's some kind of computer virus right now bringing down the different systems on the helicarrier. And apparently, when anyone else tries to get rid of the virus, they can't do it. But apparently, the virus is asking for one person who has clearance to get rid of the virus, and that is Kitty Pryde. Now, the question is, how in the world is a S.H.I.E.L.D. computer getting a virus, but the only person who has clearance to get rid of that virus is Kitty Pryde? But either way for Kitty, she agrees to go ahead and go with GW. Now for Pete Wisdom, he says no. But really for me, this is another example of the idea of their whole entire relationship just falling apart. And the reason why, because for Pete Wisdom, even though Kitty does like him, he is kind of a jerk. And I kind of feel like fans did not really like this pairing at all. I don't know. For me, I'm like, it's all right, I guess. But either way, you do have Kitty Pryde inform Excalibur that she'll be leaving because she needs some space away from the island, but also kind of gives her the chance to do something new in her life. Now, right after you do have Kitty Pryde leave Excalibur and Muir Island, she's then taken over to this store, right? Now, once she does arrive at this store, they do tell her, like, you need to go to dressing room number 12. When you do go there with a pair of jeans, don't touch the walls. And the reason why, because she will then be transported over to, well, the helicarrier. Now, for me personally, I'm kind of like, you're doing too much because I feel like, I don't know, Muir Island, you're already there with an aircraft. Why not go ahead and just take her back over to the helicarrier? But when she does arrive, she does, use her fingerprints as a way to get that clearance for the virus to go away. Now, once you do have the virus go away, she's also being confronted and greeted by, well, a character known as Rigby. Now, once he does arrive, we get the idea of these two characters liking one another. Now, for Kitty Pryde, she does kind of get upset here. And the reason why, because for Kitty Pryde, she kind of feels like her being dragged all the way over to the helicarrier to just use her fingerprints as a way to get rid of the virus is kind of pointless. Like, this could have been done in a more or less aggressive way on the way how she was brought over to the helicarrier. Now, for Rigby, he was able to calm everyone down, like Dum Dum Dugan, Kitty Pryde, and also Valentina as well. But once you do have him being able to calm everybody down, you then have Rigby go ahead and take Kitty Pryde away. And the reason why, because now with Kitty Pryde being here with S.H.I.E.L.D, she's not an intern. So it's him saying like, let me go ahead and show you around because you are a computer genius and we need you on the team. Now for Rigby, he's a tad bit more advanced when it comes to computers, but we get the idea that that hobby right there, the love for computers, is most likely going to bring these two characters together. But this kind of leads us into the ending of the first chapter. And the reason why I'm saying that, because when it comes to Rigby being able to help Kitty Pryde get a tad bit more comfortable being at S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, and also getting her S.H.I.E.L.D. outfit, we also learn here that even though Rigby is also an intern, the brand new system that S.H.I.E.L.D. is currently using was technically built up by him, which means that he is on a whole nother level when it comes to most S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who work in his department. And even though he's an intern, he's their best guy. Now, while you do have Rigby go out of his way to run diagnostics on the system to make sure that whatever kind of virus the helicarrier had received will never come back, well, that is when we learn who had basically uploaded the virus into the actual system. It's a character known as Ogun. Now, we have talked a lot about Ogun over the years when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men, really especially when it comes to Wolverine. And let me explain. You see, for Ogun, he was the mentor for Wolverine. And really, when it came to Logan, he looked up to Ogun a lot. The problem was Ogun had showed his true colors, just of course being that evil person. But when it came to Ogun, he found a way to cheat death, which was being able to transport his psychic form into different people's bodies and use their bodies as a way to stay alive. Now, originally, he wanted Kitty Pryde when he first appeared in Marvel Comics, but you had Logan being able to protect her all the way back then. But over time, he would reappear in different types of ways. Now, we have saw him in two different storylines. The first was that he kind of was going after Wolverine, but he took over the body of Lady Deathstrike and then just disappeared. And there was another storyline where he tried to take over the body of Kitty Pryde, but Pete Wisdom was able to scare Ogun away, which for me I kind of find a tad bit weird, like Ogun being scared of Pete Wisdom like that. But either way, when it came to him being able to take over the body of Lady Deathstrike, it kind of gave him the ability to turn himself into a cybernetic psychic form, where now he's able to upload himself into computers. And so the whole idea of the helicarrier getting a virus and only Kitty Pryde having the clearance to get rid of the virus was because of him just trying to pull her back in, where of course it does technically work. But here's the thing, because for Kitty Pryde now being here is him showing off all the different skills he has. Like, for example, bringing back that virus to mess up the helicarrier. There's now a possibility the helicarrier might crash into the city. On top of that, he pretends to be her by using her voice to call up Logan because he wants to meet up with Logan, quotation marks there. And for Logan, he cannot tell the person on the phone right now is not Kitty Pryde, that it's Ogun. And apparently for Logan, he believes it is Kitty Pryde. So he leaves his apartment to go meet up with Kitty. But in reality, it's Ogun finding a way to hurt Logan as a way to get to Kitty Pryde. And so this kind of leads us into the second chapter, right? Now, as we get into the second chapter, what we're seeing right now, it's really more of Kitty Pryde beginning to freak out because she realized the helicarrier is falling out of the sky, but also she no longer has the access to the computer system of the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, because for Ogun, he left that out there so that he can lure her in. Once she was there, that clearance she had, gone, taken away in a matter of seconds. And so now for her, it's like, what do we do next? Now, you have her run over to the main computer to hopefully shut it down so that for Rigby, he'll then have the chance to hopefully, regain control of the helicarrier before it crashed into the city. Now, for Wolverine, he's also on his way. But for Wolverine, he was able to quickly put two to two together. He's all like, why in the world would Kitty Pryde ask me to meet up on the bridge in my uniform? But also, why is the helicarrier falling out of the sky? Now, for Wolverine, he does pick up on the scent of Kitty and realize that she's in danger. Now, for Wolverine, it's him being Wolverine. He does use the motorcycle and the bridge as a way to hopefully get onto the helicarrier. But for Kitty Pryde, once she does make her way over to the main computer, the problem is that she's now confronted by Ogun again. Now for Ogun, what he did was he appeared now as a dead corpse, but the hologram still. But for Kitty Pryde, it's still the possibility of him being able to take over her body if she walks through him. But she has no choice. She has to shut down the system to kind of help Rigby regain control of the helicarrier so that it does not crash into the city. And so once you do have Kitty walk through Ogun, she does feel all these dark emotions. But right after that, you then have S.H.I.E.L.D. being able to stop the helicarrier from crashing into the city. Now, after all of that, you do have Kitty and Rigby being able to regroup with one another. And when they do, it does seem like for Rigby, he's going to make his move on Kitty Pryde. But then you have Wolverine appear. And when he appears, he kind of ruins the whole entire moment. But it's also him saying like, hey, I'm here to help out Kitty Pryde. But this kind of leads into the ending of the second chapter, because once you do have our heroes try to make a game plan, like for example, you do have Rigby try to reset the system so that Ogun will not be able to take over the system again. While you have Rigby doing that and you have Kitty Pryde and Wolverine doing something else, you have Ogun being able to sneak up on Rigby and then be able to take over his body. And so for Kitty Pryde, she has no idea at first that Rigby has been officially taken over by Ogun. But you know who did recognize that he was taken over by Ogun? Well, it'll be Kitty Pryde's good old friend Dragon, Lockheed, because Lockheed kind of realized there's something off about, Rigby. It's the idea of him being possessed now by, Ogun. But now we kind of transition into the third chapter, right? And for me personally, this kind of shows that for me, this whole entire series just shouldn't have been made at all. And the reason why, because we open up the third chapter with Rigby trying to make the move on Kitty Pryde. And for Kitty, she believes it is Rigby, but in reality, it's not him. It's Ogun just using his, body. And so after a while, she didn't realize that, no, it's Ogun right now trying to use his body. Now for Logan, he also appears as well. But for Logan, he wants to go ahead and kill off Rigby here. But you have Kitty Pryde say you can't do that, because if you try to kill off Rigby, it's not going to get rid of Ogun at all. Matter of fact, for Ogun, he'll just come right back in a different body or a different type of way. Now for Kitty Pryde, what she wants to do is challenge Ogun on the astral plane to get the body of Rigby back. Now, while you want to have those two characters fighting against one another, now, the rest of this chapter is really more of us just seeing, Wolverine and also Rigby work their way over to the main computer like Kitty Pryde did earlier, except this time they're kind of hoping to shut down the main computer to give S.H.I.E.L.D. control again over the helicarrier. Now, while you have the two characters do that, for Kitty Pryde, she battled against Ogun on the astral plane. Now, for me personally, this part kind of ticked me off a tad bit, because in the middle of the battle, you have Kitty Pryde bring up the idea that with Ogun trying to fight against her on the astral plane, that means he's no longer truly able to focus on the helicarrier. And so for Ogun, he's all like, oh, you're right. And he shifts his focus back onto the helicarrier. Now, for Wolverine and also for Rigsby, once they do make it over to the main computer, you didn't have Wolverine go out of his way to just destroy it, because at first he does try to press the button. That does not work, and the reason why, because of Ogun. But once you have Logan being able to just destroy the entire computer, but you also have Kitty Pryde being able to defeat Ogun on the astral plane, the day is saved. Like, that's the actual ending of this book, where it's Kitty Pryde coming back to her body and being like, hey, is the day saved? And Wolverine kind of like, yeah, we won, but just barely, because they're so close into crashing into the Statue of Liberty. And the book ends on that note. So yeah, that was Kitty Pryde, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. A very random storyline I kind of felt like was not needed at all. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.